beating Spyborg before Slippy. Normally, the game expects you to do this stupid routine where Slippy becomes overly confident off absolutely nowhere and is like, I've got this, and then gets knocked away by Spyborg as you're fighting it, and then you have to go to Titania to save him. However, if you're quick enough, you can just beat Spyborg yourself and avoid all of this happening and go to Macbeth instead. Euro Depon. So as you can tell by the untranslated sounding name, this is a really strange, obscure character who doesn't at all appear in the story, but instead only appears in the training mode, which is something that a lot of players might entirely skip, or at the very least just completely forget about after they played it the first time they turned on the game and then never again. And to add to the weirdness, they don't have actual voice acting, they instead speak in the quote-unquote Lilat's language from the first game, the animalese almost, and they appear to be a Tanuki too, and they are just such an odd and weird kind of almost creepy character to some, and they appear at the thank you screen despite all of that though. Starwolf and Bolse. So, I'm sure you all know about Starwolf and Fortuna and Venom, but how many of you have faced them in Bolse, or Bolse if I'm pronouncing it right? Yeah, this is a really uncommonly to get failsafe, where if you take the warp in Meteor as previously discussed, you can skip Fortuna. However, if you also don't take the hard route at all during this entire thing, then the game will ensure that you encounter Starwolf at least once during every playthrough anyway, and they'll appear at Bolse, and yeah, it's a fight that not many people ever see. Sector X Warp. So this is something that I don't think I've ever gotten myself, not because I don't know how to do it, but because it's just too fucking difficult to, and to get this, you have to know which path to take in Sector X, and this is another way to avoid Spyborg, I guess, in Titania. And you have to follow Falco around, and you take the left path, and you have to also be able to shoot the doors on top of noticing that, and you're gonna have to have the perfectly upgraded lasers and know when to slow down each time and have like perfect aiming or something, because I don't know, these things just don't hit right. And if you somehow manage to shoot open every single door enough times and let your teammates help you also, I guess, even though they're barely any help, then you will fly through these and go into another warp zone like Meteor that's much more obscure though. And yeah, it's pretty awesome though, and it'll help warp you to a higher difficulty. Bill and Solar. So this is a nice little detail. There's other things like this, but if you do Bill's mission, the one on Katina, then you go to Soul afterwards, then there's a pretty good chance that Bill'll eventually come over there and help you. It's just a nice little detail in the game. Sector Z, super recognizable yet meek. So what this means is that Sector C is a level that's really small, and a lot of people kind of tend to avoid or even just dread playing and might avoid it for that reason. But despite that, there's just something about it that's so iconic, where it's like, yes, you're probably thinking of the Smash 64 stage, and that's what makes it so iconic and recognizable. But why did they go with that one in the first place? I guess just because it's so cool looking on the map screen, and it stands out there, that's for sure. And I don't know, it's just an interesting little thing, because, like, the sea itself looks so fucking cool and everybody recognizes it, but the level itself is just, Katina's Secret End. Another thing I've never encountered myself, but I know about, but maybe less people know about, because this is something that's super hard to get, and it's not even really your fault if you don't get it all. Because usually when the mission ends, then Bill's all like, oh, take care, Fox, and then Fox is like, you too, Bill. But if you manage to do this without a single ally pilot, and yes, I mean all of the regular generic soldiers or pilots that are there too, without any of them going down, then the secret ending will trigger. Whereas instead of going like, you too, Bill, Fox, will go like, you owe me one, or something like that. And the reason why this is so difficult to get is because you can avoid all of this yourself. However, your teammates, and I don't know what determines if it's just dumb fucking luck, but these fucking idiots, especially Peppy I'm looking at, will shoot down allies, and it will count against you. It's bullshit, I know. And fucking Peppy will be like, I got one, oops, I killed an innocent person instead, my bad. And it's just a ridiculous thing to try to see. Caiman is an edited Granga. Here's Granga, and here's Caiman. Can unsee it now? Titania is too hard for beginner route. So this is something I want to personally include from past experiences, and I wonder how everybody else feels about this. But Titania is part of the quote-unquote easy route. It expects you to go this one first. It expects you to fuck up at Spyborg and Star Wolf beforehand too, so it's gonna assume that you're a pretty fucking bad player if you get here. And it's the introduction to the Landmaster, which is not the Armwing, it's a new system to control and everything. But despite all that, this mission is fucking hard. Like, I definitely think it's one of the harder ones in the entire game, especially if you're new to it, I guess, and it's what expects you to go in. I definitely think Macbeth is way easier, and that there's other missions in this game that are way easier than this too. Like, I always barely beat Titania by the skin of my teeth, and yet they expect this to be the first one that you play, and I just don't know what the deal with that is. Anyway, that does it for this one, and next up we're going to be talking about some pretty obscure things.